Chapter 15 Judah's Land. The clans of the Judah tribe were given land that went south along the border of Edom, and at its furthest point south, it even reached the Zin Desert. Judah's southern border started at the south end of the Dead Sea. As it went west from there, it ran south of Scorpion past Zin, and then came up from the south to Kadesh Barnea. It continued past Hezron up to Adar, turned towards Karka, and ran along to Asmon. After that, it followed the Egyptian gorge and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. This was also Israel's southern border. Judah's eastern border ran the full length of the Dead Sea. The northern border started at the northern end of the Dead Sea. From there, it went west up to Beth Hoglah, continued north of Beth Araba, and went up to the monument of Bohan, who belonged to the Reuben tribe. From there, it went to Trouble Valley and Debir, then turned north and went to Gilgal, which is on the north side of the valley across from Adumim Pass. It continued on to En-Shemesh and Rogel and up through Hinnom Valley on the land sloping south from Jerusalem. The city of Jerusalem itself belonged to the Jebusites. Next, the border went up to the top of the mountain on the west side of Hinnom Valley and at the north end of Rephaim Valley. At the top of the mountain, it turned and went to Nephtoah Spring and then to the ruins on Mount Ephron. From there, it went to Baalah, which is now called Kiriath Jearim. From Baalah, the northern border curved west to Mount Seir and then ran along the northern ridge of Mount Zearim, where Chesalon is. Then it went down to Beth Shemesh and over to Timnah. It continued along to the hillside north of Ekron, curved around to Shikeron, and then went to Mount Baalah. After going to Zab near the border, finally ended at the Mediterranean Sea, which was Judah's western border. The clans of Judah lived within these borders. Caleb's land. This is also told in Judges 1:12-15. Joshua gave Caleb some land among the people of Judah, as God has told him to do. Caleb's share was Hebron, which at that time was known as Arba's town, because Arba was the famous ancestor of the Anakim. Caleb attacked Hebron and forced the three Anakim clans of Sheshai, Ahiman, and Talmai to leave. Next, Caleb started a war with the town of Debir, which at that time was called Kiriath Sefer. He told his men, "The man who captures Kiriath Sefer can marry my daughter Aksha." Caleb's nephew Othniel captured Kiriath Sefer, and Caleb let him marry Aksha. Straight after the wedding, Aksha started telling Othniel that he ought to ask her father for a field. She went to see her father, and while she was getting down from her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What's bothering you?" She answered, "I need your help. The land you gave me is in the southern desert, so I really need some spring-fed ponds for a water supply." Caleb gave her a couple of small ponds named the Higher Pond and Lower Pond. Towns in Judah's land. The following is a list of the towns in each region given to the Judah clans. The first region was in the southern desert along the border with Edom, and it had the following 29 towns with their surrounding villages: Kabzir, Eder, Zagor, Kina, Dimona, Arada, Kedesh, Hazor of Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bealoth, Hazor Hadattah, Kerioth Hezron, which is also called Hazor, Amam, Shema, Molada, Hazar Gada, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba and its surrounding villages, Bala, Lim, Ezem, Eltolad, Chesil, Hormah, Ziklag, Madmana, Sansannah, Lebaoth, Shilhim, and Enlimon. The second region was in the northern part of the lower foothills, and it had the following 14 towns with their surrounding villages: Eshtaol, Jorah, Ashna, Janoah, En-Ganim, Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Soko, Azekah, Sharaim, Adidaim, Gedera, and Gederothaim. The third region was in the southern part of the lower foothills, and it had the following 16 towns with their surrounding villages: Zenan, Hadashah, Migdalgad, Dilan, Mitzpeh, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kabon, Lamas, Chitlish, Gederoth, Beth Dagon, Naamah, and Makkedah. The fourth region was in the central part of the lower foothills, and it had the following 9 towns with their surrounding villages: Rimnah, Ether, Ashan, Ibtah, Ashna, Nezib, Keilah, Akzib, and Mareshah. The fifth region was along the Mediterranean coast, and it had the following towns with their surrounding settlements and villages: Ekron and the towns between there and the coast, Ashdod and the larger towns nearby, Gaza, the towns from Gaza to the Egyptian Gorge, and the towns along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The sixth region was in the southwestern part of the hill country, and it had the following 11 towns with their surrounding villages: Shamir, Jatir, Soko, Dana, Kiryas Sana, which is now called Debir, Anab, Eshtemoh, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo. The seventh region was in the south-central part of Judah's hill country, and it had the following 9 towns with their surrounding villages: Arab, Duma, Eshan, Janim, Beth Tapua, Afekah, Humta, Kiryas Arba, which is now called Hebron, and Zior. The eighth region was in the southeastern part of the hill country, and it had the following 10 towns with their surrounding villages: Maon, Carmel, Jib, Juttah, Jezreel, Jokdim, Janoah, Kain, Gibeah, and Timnah. The ninth region was in the central part of Judah's hill country, and it had the following 6 towns with their surrounding villages: Halhul, Beth-Zur, Gedor, Maarath, Beth-Anoth, and Eltekon. The 10th region was in the north-central part of Judah's hill country, and it had the following 11 towns with their surrounding villages: Tekoa, Ephrath, which is also called Bethlehem, Peor, Etam, Kulon, Tatam, Shoresh, Kerem, Galim, Bether, and Manahath. The 11th region was in the northern part of Judah's hill country, and it had the following 2 towns with their surrounding villages: Rabbah and Kiryas Baal, which is also called Kiryas Jearim. The 12th region was in the desert along the Dead Sea, and it had the following 6 towns with their surrounding villages: Beth Araba, Midin, Sekaka, Nibshat, Salt Town, and En-Gedi. The Jebusites lived in Jerusalem, and the people of the Judah tribe could not capture the city and get rid of them. That's why Jebusites still live in Jerusalem along with the people of Judah. Chapter 16. Ephraim's land. Ephraim and Manasseh are the 2 tribes descended from Joseph, and the following is a description of the land they received. The southern border of their land started at the river Jordan east of the spring at Jericho. From there it went west through the desert up to the hill country around Bethel. From Bethel it went to Luz and then to the border of the Archites in Ataroth. It continued west down to the land that belonged to the Japhlet clan, then went on to lower Beth Horon, Gezer, and the Mediterranean Sea. The following is a description of the land that was divided among the clans of the Ephraim tribe. Their southern border started at Ataroth Adar and went west to Upper Beth Horon and the Mediterranean Sea. Their northern border started on the east at Janoah, curved a little to the north, then came back south to Mikmethath and Tapua, where it followed the Kana Gorge west to the Mediterranean Sea. The eastern border started on the north near Janoah and went between Janoah on the southwest and Taanath Shiloh on the northeast. Then it went south to Ataroth, Nara, and on as far as the edge of the land that belonged to Jericho. At that point it turned east and went to the river Jordan. The clans of Ephraim received this region as their tribal land. Ephraim also had some towns and villages that were inside Manasseh's tribal land. Ephraim could not force the Canaanites out of Gezer, so there are still some Canaanites who live there among the Israelites. But now these Canaanites have to work as slaves for the Israelites. Chapter 17. Manasseh's land west of the river Jordan. Manasseh was Joseph's eldest son, and Machir was Manasseh's eldest son. Machir had a son named Gilad, and some of his descendants had already received the regions of Gilad and Bashan because they were good warriors. The other clans of the Manasseh tribe descended from Gilead's sons Abiezer, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Hefer, and Shemidah. The following is a description of the land they received. Hefer's son Zelophehad did not have any sons, but he did have 5 daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tisra. One day the clans that were descendants of Zelophehad's 5 daughters went to the priest Eleazar, Joshua, and the leaders of Israel. The people of these clans said, "The Lord told Moses to give us land just as he gave land to our relatives." Joshua followed the Lord's instructions and gave land to these 5 clans as he had given land to the 5 clans that had descended from Hefer's brothers. So Manasseh's land west of the river Jordan was divided into 10 parts. The land of the Manasseh tribe went from its northern border with the Asher tribe south to Mikmethath, which is to the east of Shechem. The southern border started there, but curved even further south to include the people who lived around Tapua Spring. The town of Tapua was on Manasseh's border with Ephraim. Although the land around Tapua belonged to Manasseh, the town itself belonged to Ephraim. Then the border went west to the Kana Gorge and ran along the northern edge of the gorge to the Mediterranean Sea. The land south of the gorge belonged to Ephraim, and even though there were a few towns that belonged to Ephraim north of the gorge, the land north of the gorge belonged to Manasseh. The western border of Manasseh was the Mediterranean Sea, and the tribe shared a border with the Asher tribe on the northwest and with the Issachar tribe on the northeast. Manasseh was supposed to have the following towns with their surrounding villages inside the borders of Issachar's and Asher's tribal lands: Bethshan, Ibleam, Endor, Tarnak, Megiddo, and Dor, which is also called Napha. But the people of Manasseh could not capture these towns, so the Canaanites kept on living in them. When the Israelites grew stronger, they made the Canaanites in these towns work as their slaves, though they never did force them to leave. Joseph's descendants asked for more land. One day the Joseph tribes came to Joshua and asked, "Why didn't you give us more land? The Lord has always been kind to us, and we have too many people for this small region." Joshua replied, "If you have so many people that you don't have enough room in the hill country of Ephraim, then go into the forest that belong to the Perizzites and the Rephaim. Clear out the trees and make more room for yourselves there." "Even if we do that," they one answered, "there still won't be enough land for us in the hill country, and we can't move down into Jezreel Valley because the Canaanites who live in Beth Shan and in other parts of the valley have iron chariots." Your tribes do have a lot of people," Joshua admitted. "I'll give you more land. Your tribes are powerful, so you can have the rest of the hill country, but it's a forest, and you will have to cut down the trees and clear the land. You can also have Jezreel Valley. Even though the Canaanites there are strong and have iron chariots, you can force them to leave the valley." Chapter 18. Joshua gives out the rest of the land. After Israel had captured the land, they met at Shiloh and set up the sacred tent. There were still 7 tribes without any land. So Joshua told the people, "The Judah tribe has already settled in its land in the south, and the Joseph tribes have settled in their land in the north. The tribes of Gad, Reuben, and East Manasseh already have the land that the Lord's servant Moses gave them east of the river Jordan. And the people of Levi won't get a single large region of the land like the other tribes. Instead, they will serve the Lord as priests. But the rest of you haven't done a thing to take over any land. The Lord God who was worshipped by your ancestors has given you the land, and now it's time to go ahead and settle there. 7 tribes still don't have any land. Each of these tribes should choose 3 men, and I'll send them to explore the remaining land. They will divide it into 7 regions, write a description of each region, and bring these descriptions back to me. I will find out from the Lord our God what region each tribe should get." Just before the men left camp, Joshua repeated their orders. "Explore the land and write a description of it. Then come back to Shiloh, and I will find out from the Lord how to divide the land." The men left and went across the land, dividing it into 7 regions. They wrote down a description of each region, town by town, and returned to Joshua at the camp at Shiloh. Joshua found out from the Lord how to divide the land, and he told the tribes what the Lord had decided. Benjamin's land. Benjamin was the first tribe chosen to receive land. The region of its clans lay between the Judah tribe on the south and the Joseph tribes on the north. Benjamin's northern border started at the river Jordan and went up the ridge north of Jericho, then on west into the hill country as far as the Beth Aven desert. From there it went to Luz, which is now called Bethel. The border ran along the ridge south of Luz, then went to Ataroth Orech, and on as far as the mountain south of Lower Beth Horon. At that point, it turned south and became the western border. It went as far south as Kiriath Baal, a town in Judah now called Kiriath Jearim. Benjamin's southern border started at the edge of Kiriath Jearim and went east to the ruins and on to Nephtoah Spring. From there, it went to the bottom of the hill at the northern end of Rephaim Valley. The other side of this hill faces Hinnom Valley, which is on the land that slopes south from Jerusalem. The border went down through Hinnom Valley until it reached En-Rogel. At En-Rogel, the border curved north and went to En-Shemesh and on east to Galiloth, which is across the valley from Adumim Pass. Then it went down to the monument of Bohan, who belonged to the Reuben tribe. The border ran along the hillside north of Beth Arabah, then down into the Jordan Valley. Inside the valley, it went south as far as the northern hillside of Beth Hoglah. The last section of the border went from there to the northern end of the Dead Sea at the mouth of the river Jordan. The river Jordan itself was Benjamin's eastern border. This was the borders of Benjamin's tribal land, where the clans of Benjamin lived. One region of Benjamin's tribal land had 12 towns with their surrounding villages. Those towns was Jericho, Beth Hoglah, Emek-Keziz, Beth Araba, Zemaraim, Bethel, Avim, Para, Ophrah, Chephar, Ammoni, Opni, and Geba. In the other region, there were the following 14 towns with their surrounding villages: Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mitzpeh, Chephirah, Moza, Rechem, Irpir, Tarala, Zela, Haelef, Giba, Giba, Kiriath Jearim, and Jerusalem, which is also called the Jebusite town. These regions are the tribal lands of Benjamin.